Hello, I welcome you into the brave, energetic space of birth back to the wild, where we unravel the threads of our existence to reveal the truth beneath the surface of modern birth and motherhood. On this episode, I am going to dive into the lower chakras and bring in some concepts of herbalism and detox and emotions, and how they all relate within the body in connection to our organ systems, in connection to our wellness and chronic pains and disease that manifest in the body, and how much of these things can be tracked back to very early experiences in our life within the first and second chakras, and how it can stretch us into the work of somatics. Because in these first two chakras, there's so much that has been embedded into our bodies, into our fascia, into our memory, our body memory, not in our brain, that causes us to adapt and behave in ways of survival because we didn't carry the proper tools in order to move through some of these challenges in our early life, because we didn't have the language to speak to it, because we didn't have the ability to speak at all in infancy and toddlerhood and even young adolescence. So let's get into the lower chakras, our first two chakras, the root and sacral. I'm going to go one at a time and speak to them and reference back to when I was a yoga teacher and I did yoga classes for the chakras. And it was called The Journey of the Chakras. And I would bring these rights to the surface, these references to how we are deficient or excess in this energetic space. We must understand how the energetics of our body impact our health, our current state of wellness. And I strongly believe that if we can bring together spirituality with science, there are such big strides that we would make in terms of whole body wellness. Because when you forget the spirituality side, you're only working on a physical vessel. But we aren't just a physical vessel. We're not just a body of cells and matter and skin and organs. We are also a spiritual, energetic being. Our body vibrates with electricity. And when you understand what that electricity means, where it comes from, what it actually means when we speak to energy in like a very tangible and vibrational way. It's not just like in spirituality, I think often people get stuck in the idea of vibrating good vibes and high vibes, and it becomes kind of a really flippant statement and not connecting, not reflective of what the actual energetic vibration of our body is and what impacts it. Because at the end of the day, the root, the very core of our being, isn't just matter. It's vibration. It's frequency. And to be able to nurture the body back into a state of balance is really what healing is about. And there's no one simple way of doing it. And there's a lot of bypassing that happens where everyone wants to just think mind over matter, or you want to bypass the lower chakras and go into the upper chakras and think all love and light and high vibes, and forgetting that without the foundation, you cannot truly rise into the upper chakras. You will not be grounded. You will have a certain level of mental illness rise up, if you could say it that way. You end up much more out of body. You're constantly seeking experiences outside of the body or up in the astral, and you're not grounded. So many come into spirituality and think that being enlightened involves the acts of leaving the body or going into astral travel or going into plant medicine trance states. But the most healing and deeply spiritual work you can do is grounding into the body, because that brings you so deeply into the experience of what being human is and the exact purpose of why we're incarnated here. You are not incarnated as a human on earth for you to keep trying to escape your body. It is for you to sit more deeply into the body, into your experiences, into the wounds and pains and discomfort that have led to where you are today. Because the reality is your past, your experiences of your past, are what shapes and brought you to the place you are today. So in order to understand yourself, you need to also understand your past. So let's begin to talk a little bit about the first chakra. So our root chakra is right down at the base of the spine. It is associated to the earth element, and which really has to do with grounding. It's our roots. It's our grounding. It's the depth of our foundation. It has to do with our safety and security and our right to be here and have. Many people have this feeling of not belonging on earth, and much of that has to do with being ungrounded. It is imbalanced in the root chakra. And this is kind of developed in the first couple years of life, from conception until about 1 year old, probably 1 to 2. But it's that first year of infancy and within the womb. Because what mother experiences, baby experiences. So if you have a very imbalanced and difficult pregnancy, abusive relationship, instability, whatever it may be, that energy, the frequency, the vibration of your body will connect to your baby as well. It affects the blueprint in which your baby is born in. Because you are interconnected with your baby in the womb, your experiences are similar. So it can be felt and embedded within the body of your baby. The first chakra relates to the color red. And there's a level of self-preservation, I suppose, that comes with this chakra as well. It's very primal. It's very much based on your primal needs. Like food, your nourishment, water, shelter, connection, comfort with a caregiver. And if those things are compromised in any way, caregiver is non-responsive or not there, emotionally unavailable. Cry it out is a good example of it, when you're left to be on your own and have to try to survive. Often we shut down emotional systems in order to adapt and survive because you don't have the proper tools as an infant to truly handle those situations. So not being responsive to a baby's needs will cause trauma and wounds within the first chakra. It will imbalance the lower chakra. And this is our foundation. Like I said, I feel like much of our childhood, millennials in particular, probably the older generations as well, have truly really poor foundations in the lower chakra because of teachings by Dr. Spock and all of these supposed parenting experts who thought that these rigid schedules and cried out methods and sleep training and formula feeding and feeding schedules and moms going back to work and leaving babies in daycare, all of these things have impacted the foundation of your baby's development. This is not about telling parents that they're bad parents. There is no shaming involved. This is just a clear-cut idea. This is clear-cut biology, energetics, and how we develop. So when our root chakra is balanced, you have strong vitality. You are grounded. You're comfortable in your body. You have a sense of trust in the world. When you don't have two caregivers who are responding to you and there for you and constantly nurturing you and comforting you and bonding and breastfeeding, you don't have a trust in the responsiveness of the world to care for you. That creates a safety and security. So it is so important in that first year of life, which is why I'm such an advocate of moms being home with their babies. That mom-baby bond is crucial to baby's development and feeling connected and safe in this world. And it's vital that it is mom because there is a biological, cellular, energetic link between mom and baby. Even when a baby is born, they are now physically separated, as in baby out of the womb, but there's still a shared energetic system between them. Mom is still the sense of comfort for a baby. And many dads can even attest to that, where mom is only one baby will stop crying for. It is literally a scent. Smelling mom's milk, her natural scent, the feeling that a baby feels being held by its mom, regulated with her heartbeat, the heat warmth of her body. There is a cellular memory there. And I think our society has gotten so disconnected from what our primal nature is and what many animals very instinctually follow. We have been taught to follow supposed experts and people who write books, and men who are highly analytical and more solution-based and want to be involved in baby's life, which is appropriate. However, when it is intentionally disconnecting the biological bond between mom and baby, just so dad can also feel wanted, there is ego involved in that. And we have to be aware of that. There is a way dad can be involved as well. But the best thing a father can do, a husband, a partner, is trust in the mother. Trust in his partner. Trust her wisdom and her leadership in this space. Because I'm going to tell you right now that the matriarch, the mother, she is the one who leads the family. She is the one with the powerful instincts. And the animal world will show you the same thing. So the moms, matriarchy is about leadership with the family. And it's led by the mother and centered around children. And that is what I feel we need to come back to as well. Ways that we see traumas in the lower chakras: birth trauma, abandonment, neglect, poor physical bonding with mom, malnourishment, which could be feeding difficulties in early infancy, major illnesses or surgeries, physical abuse, enema abuse, inherited traumas, which can actually be references to, like, if your parent was a survivor of war crimes or severe poverty, or they were in war themselves, that kind of stuff. Now, when we think about the physical, there are physical symptoms. When we see chronic things come up within the body that we experience, it can be connected to a certain chakra. Now, you can think about it in similar locations of the body. So the root chakra is down in the very lower part of the pelvis, that low area of the spine, where your anus is, where your vaginal opening is, the urethra, and the physical issues often are disorders of the bowel, anus, large intestines, and the foundational parts of your body, which are the bones and teeth. And then also with legs, feet, knees, spine, butt. Those are all kind of the foundational and rooted. Think of your legs and feet as kind of the root system of your body. The same way a tree roots down. The legs, feet, knees can be considered the roots. And the bones and teeth are like the foundational strength of the body. And then eating disorders are very connected to the root chakra as well. And frequent illness. But there's also kind of a more depth to that as well in terms of what causes it. What causes the frequent illness. So when we're imbalanced in the lower chakra, there are lots of ways to kind of bring ourselves back. The main focus is reconnecting with your body, with movement practices, dance, movement, yoga, even I like to use music and movement in like a shamanic journeying aspect, and that is going to be I'm going to be using that in my course that I'm creating. The Purify piece, we'll have to do purifying the lower chakras, and we're going to bring movement in along with detox. It's going to be a spiritual, emotional, and physical detox to purify the body. Yoga is helpful, a good amount of meditation to bring you back into the body. So the lower chakra is the root is very much about reclaiming your body and your right to be here. And our earliest childhood relationship to the mother is a really key piece of root chakra imbalances. And we can also bring in herbalism into this as well. So when you look at the root, it relates to the red. It's the earth element. So looking to herbs that have a connection, that are more of an earth element plant, along with the color red. There's a lot of connection to kind of root plants. I always think of red clover, red root. What was the other one? Burdock root. There was one other one I had in my mind and I lost it. Yeah, I can't think of it right now. Rhubarb. Red rhubarb, actually. So when we use certain plants and fruits also, not even just herbs, but fruits as a reference, reds, deep reds, so like beets is also a really good one. All of these are going to help bring us back into balance in the lower chakra, that root chakra. So, and then we can also bring in flower essences. There are flower essences that I've been working with a lot of flower essences right now. And there's a lot of flower essences which also are similar to the herbs. So if we're speaking to, say, what was the main one I was working with right now? That was a root chakra. Red clover, I think. Mm-hmm. And then you can use that as a flower essence to help ground you. That is more of a frequency and energy medicine to help in the emotional body and spiritual body. So there's so much at our disposal that links all of these things together, from the spiritual to the physical. And it's never just one thing that we focus on. It's never just like one ailment, one issue, one part of the body. There's such a deep connection within the energetics, within the physical, within your emotions that come up. So the emotional connections in the lower chakra. Where did I even find that part? Oh, some of the signs of imbalance in the root chakra. I missed that part. So feeling disconnected from the body, being underweight, actually, there is more of a deficiency. So there's two spectrums. There's deficiency and excess. So being deficient in the root chakra, you're disconnected from the body, you're underweight, you often feel fearful, anxious, restless, poor focus and discipline, financial difficulty, poor boundaries, and chronic disorganization. And then on the excess, we have obesity and overeating. We often see eating disorders in general that relate to the root chakra. Hoarding, material fixation and greed, sluggish, lazy, tired, fear of change, addiction to security, and rigid boundaries. So when we think of the way we can bring balance, I am a big advocate of beginning with nutritional detox. I feel like a huge part begins in the physical. You remember, once things manifest into the physical, it's about kind of slowly reversing what has been done. So now we're in the physical manifestation of illness. You want to begin in the physical and work your way back. Because as you start to strip down the physical congestion and stagnation in your body, it begins to lighten up your etheric body. It starts to pull up a little bit of that stagnancy. Emotions will come up. Other mental awarenesses, spiritual triggers will rise to the surface to allow you to sit with them and be able to resolve past wounds. Because now as an adult, if you're able to bring it up, you're able to sit with it more consciously and bring resolution to those wounds from past experiences when you were a child and were not able to, you didn't have the tools to move through it. So now you're able to work with it a bit more consciously. Give me a second. Katie wants to leave. Okay, so now let's move on to the second chakra. This one is related to the water element. It is the color orange. It has to do with movement and connection. There's so much to be said about the second chakra, Svadhisthana. our sensuality, sexuality, pleasure, desires, needs, emotions, movement-based, sits in our sacral. And obviously as women, our womb is a big component of the second chakra. We have our womb space, the reproductive system, our menstrual cycle, our sexuality, our sensuality, our ability to feel and have pleasure, not even just sexually, but in life, pleasures in life. It really connects to being able to explore the world, exploring yourself, your body reclamation, your expression, but also it's about exploring the world and its pleasures that it has to share with us. Being balanced in this chakra, we see graceful movement, emotional intelligence, ability to experience pleasure, nurturance of the self and others, ability to change, and healthy boundaries. So this chakra really speaks to self-worth, as well as pleasure. So seeing yourself as worthy of experiencing the pleasures of life. And if you're imbalanced in the root chakra, then it's really difficult to be balanced in the second chakra. So it's really, it's a build-up from root up. Because if your root is imbalanced, your second chakra will likely be imbalanced because you can't build up on an imbalanced foundation, right? So this begins to develop usually around 6 months to 2 years old, 2 to 3 years old. And if there is any type of abuse, touching, lack of touching, if a parental figure is too touchy, if there's a sexual abuse that happens, or completely detached from their baby, they're both can show up in different ways. Emotional abuse, volatile situations, neglect and rejection, denial of child's feelings, enmeshment in the family, emotional manipulation, overuse of playpen or restricting normal movement for a child or a baby, learning to explore the world. If it's really restricted by a helicopter parent, it can make it difficult for a child to be able to explore their surroundings. Religious or moral severity, physical abuse, alcoholic family. So addiction primarily lives in the second chakra as well, because it has to do with seeking pleasure. And when you don't feel those pleasures, then you tend to numb out. And I would say a really big trigger in this area for women is the sexual abuse, rape. And one of the most chronic things I hear, I experienced it myself, and I hear many other women experience the same thing, is the first sexual experiences being unwanted or not fully consensual, not necessarily something you'd call rape, but also not something you fully wanted to do or felt ready to do. But as a woman, you felt almost obligated, like you had to say yes because it was a boyfriend, or like you loved him, so you felt like you had to say yes, or you were in a situation where like you felt you led him on, so then they made you feel like you were obligated to have sex with him because, say, you were dressed a certain way, or you got him excited, so then they kind of guilt you or make you feel like you were obligated to have sex. Those types of situations are all going to numb out the second chakra. It almost teaches you to numb out during sex, like you don't deserve pleasure, like you aren't worthy of genuine pleasure as a partner in a sexual experience. And you get conditioned to see yourself as an object of a man's pleasure. And I say this personally. Much of my life, I never enjoyed sexual experiences because I felt like just an object of use for the benefit of male desires. And that greatly diminished my own experience with sex and has made it now very difficult at my almost 40 years old now to want to even have a sexual partner. And since I'm now currently single, it's not hard not to have sex, but looking toward the possibility of another relationship is almost scary sometimes, because I know that I'm still currently working in this chakra very, very closely right now, actually, to bring my own healing. And I know a lot of women who have similar struggles. The second chakra is a really, 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 really powerful one. And it really is the source of a lot of our magic, our self-worth, our confidence, our this is really the self-care chakra. And shame around sex is also a big one. That does not mean now everyone goes the opposite direction and wants to have a ton of casual sex because that means that we're liberated. No, I actually would go the opposite direction. That is actually diminishing the value of sex and the sacredness of it versus liberating you. It's actually, that is an excess of second chakra. So in deficiency, we see rigidity in the body and attitudes, a fear of sex, poor social skills, denial of pleasure, excessive boundaries, fear of change, and lack of desire and excitement. In excess, we see sexual addictions, lots of casual sex and acting out, a pleasure addiction. That is pretty much all addictions, really live in the second chakra. Except I would say eating disorders are more first chakra. Excessively strong emotions ruled by your emotions. This is where a lot of kind of mood swings and bipolar type behaviors come from. People who are chronic victims, big mood swings. Yeah, that's in second chakra. Inability to kind of emotionally regulate yourself, not suppress. We don't want to be suppressing emotions. That's not any better. We don't want to be controlled by our emotions. We want to be able to sit with them and experience them without letting it consume you. And that is also where a lot of addiction stems from as well. Having poor boundaries, a seductive manipulation. So a lot of women in particular have kind of been trained over the years to use sex as a way of manipulating men. And I feel this is a very deep wound, collectively speaking, as well, that we need to see in ourselves, in the way we have behaved or are behaving, and see how it is affecting you, your own energy, your own wellness, and those you are in relationship with. Emotional dependency, within partnerships is a big one. That codependent behavior. And obsessive attachment with partners also. The physical that we see manifest from the second chakra imbalances are, like I said, oftentimes it's related to the reproductive organs, spleen, urinary system, very connected to the kidneys, pancreas, menstrual difficulties, and, lots of issues with the menstrual cycle is going to be directly related to the sacral. Sexual dysfunctions, impotence, premature ejaculation, frigidity, non-orgasmic, all lives in the second chakra. And it also links to low back pain issues, knee, lack of flexibility, deadened senses, loss of appetite for food, sex, life. The way we can bring healing in this chakra is a movement therapy. Shamanic movement therapy, inner child work are huge for second chakra work. And both of those things, especially movement, shamanic movement journeys, can bring up emotional releases in big ways and help bring healing into the inner child, connecting with your inner child in ways that allow you to feel pleasure again, do things that that made you happy as a child. Like, what were the things that brought you joy? Like, I loved singing and dancing. And those are things that I've brought back into my life now to reawaken and align that inner child, mothering her in ways that I didn't receive when I was a child. Now, as adults, we can remother our inner child. That's all I can say about that part. So, as far as plants go, now we can bring in the plant work as well, which would be related to the color orange and water elements. Calendula is a big one. That's really, calendula, plantain are really deeply connected to the second chakra and have a lot to do with our gut healing, digestive system, pancreas, the lower intestinal tract and balancing. California poppy, I think, also is kind of a second chakra plant. And then we think in terms of foods, obviously oranges, carrots, trying to think. Papaya, I think, would be in there as well. And crystals are another one that we can bring in. But personally, I feel we need to start. I have gotten a message years ago about crystals being brought back into the earth, gifting crystals back to the earth to help with her healing at this time. Instead of constantly taking them out of the earth, I think we need to start giving them back. Because as she heals, she becomes an anchor for us, for our energetic system as well. So when she becomes stronger and more anchored in herself, we are able to sit with Mother Earth and she becomes our anchor. And we don't need to utilize those tools as much anymore because we have a direct line to the energies of the planet and the universe and source consciousness and, all that is the source of all creation. With the lower chakras, I had designed a program, a course that I am putting together in the school platform that the first of 3, this one is going to be called Purify. And it is concentrated on the lower chakras and all that I have just kind of went through and helping heal and balance and purify those foundational chakras so that you can then move up into the next stage into the 3rd, 4th, and 5th chakras. And then the last stage is in the upper 2 chakras. So this is the foundation. I really love the connection of this work with the emotions and the chakras and the energetics and the physical manifestations and the emotions and the herbs and the essences. There's just so much to bring together. So I appreciate you for being here, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. And I will be back in the next episode where we will talk about the middle 3 chakras. So thank you for being here. I love you all.